you ready? Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? We'll move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for The Right Rhythm. The Right Rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's The Right Rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
First, he gassed us. Then, he lied to us.
We have made it abundantly clear that no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
Can we really trust him not to implement mandates for children aged 5 to 11? Vote them out!
My father died when I was just 5 years old. My mother came from Willikie's village. She had 5 young mouths to feed, and she toiled on her sewing machine to make ends meet. She was a strong woman who taught us right from wrong. And even though she struggled, the choices she made put us on the right path. I made the choice to work hard, play by the rules, and get an education. I had a number of opportunities, but I chose to return to Antigua and inspire the next generation. I taught at the Antigua Grammar School, and it's here that I saw firsthand how education transforms lives. I made the choice to get into politics because of the lack of resources that I saw in our schools. I saw how our teachers and families struggled, whilst an elite few got ahead. When the people granted us the opportunity to serve in government, we had a lot of work to do. As Minister of Finance, I helped to clean up the rot of 30 years of one-party rule. We saw our country through the global financial crisis and the Stanford collapse. Through all of that, we introduced the school meals program, the school uniform program, and laptops for children. While we were not perfect, no one is perfect but Almighty God. We worked day in and day out to defend the nation and put people first. Today I see too many families struggling for a lack of jobs and the mental stress that comes with it. The cost of living is out of control, and for too many of us, water is still not readily available. And our needed pension checks are not coming on time. While the elite few did well, the ABLP denied you the right to choose what you put in your body. Whilst we believe in vaccines, we don't believe it's the responsibility of government to control your bodies. We will bring an end to all the mandates. This election is about choice, and we believe that we are the right choice because we give you the choice.
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, I'm a hard skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly won near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education, or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
and welcome to another edition of the Captain's Corner with Harold Lovell. I'm your host for this evening, Sean Nicholas, and in the house is the captain himself, Brother Harold Lovell. Good evening and welcome.
Well, good evening to you and to the listening audience. I'm looking forward to a really good program tonight.
Okay. How has it been? It has been last few weeks have been real grueling. You know, let's talk. How
well,
are you keeping?
you know, I'm keeping well and I'm feeling highly energized. We had a great picket on Tuesday, bringing out some of the key issues that are bothering the people at this time, and the party was very happy to be there with the people and to show that we are in full solidarity with the three main issues, which I'm sure we'll be talking about tonight.
Certainly.
The issue of the water, the issue of the increase in the fuel prices, and the poor maintenance of our fire service. But there's so many other things because the country is going in the wrong direction.
Okay. But before we get to the issues, tonight is indeed a special night. 18 years ago, was it? On the 23rd of March, we went to the polls, but the celebration was not until the 24th fully. UPP becoming victorious and becoming the new governing party of Antigua and Barbuda. Take us back there.
Oh yes, I can remember the 18th of March.
And by the way,
very
happy
well.
anniversary.
Yes, 18 years ago. That was a good day. Actually, on that day, I was in St. Kitts. There was a heads of government meeting, a CARICOM heads of government meeting, and the Prime Minister, who had just been elected, Baldwin Spencer, he had, you know, at the time, he was engaged in putting the cabinet together and other matters that he had to attend to that day. And so it was a very rainy day. And I remember I had to board a flight and we went down to St. Kitts. But apart from that, I can say that that was a day when there was almost a sigh of relief. People were breathing a sigh of relief, recognizing that after 28 years, free at last,
Thank
you know?
God Almighty.
Oh, yes. And so I will always remember that day, but I can remember the night when we won. I mean, people were almost delirious with joy, and there was singing and dancing in the streets. So we're looking to have that again very soon in Antigua. Another day when people will be breathing a sigh of relief and people will say, oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day indeed. But we always say in order for us to move forward, sometimes we have to look back. The UPP administration, we had 2 terms in office. Let's talk about some of the highlights, some of the achievements of a UPP administration.
Well, I would say definitely we are punching above our weight. And, you know, when you realize that for the 10-year period that we're in government, the impact that we had on every aspect of our society and our economy. I like to think about what we did, first of all, for people. You know, what were the focal areas where people were the center of all that we were doing, and some of the direct benefits, apart from the economic benefits, some of the direct benefits to people. I mean, it was a UPP administration within that period. We increased the pension for pensioners from under $100 to $800. Everybody knows what we did in the school system with the school uniforms, the school meals, the People's Benefit Program. All of these programs were great. We introduced the loan fund for students who were studying. We introduced the Prime Minister's Scholarship Fund. We were able to send thousands of Antiguans and Barbudans to all parts of the world, to China, of course, to North Africa, to the United States, to Canada, to England, to Europe, South America, including Mexico. I mean, it was a magnificent period in the life of this nation. And I will always remember that period. I mean, in terms of the thrust we had in information technology, the GATE program, a lot of the new ideas that came out in agriculture. We created the Tourism Authority. We were able to put tourism on a new path. We had several new properties being built, apart from the over 40 small hotel properties that were developed. There was Sandals, there was Hermitage, there was Sugar Ridge, there was Veranda. All of these happened in the first 5 years of the UPP administration. And we were able to create employment to a point where construction was really buzzing. I remember it was so difficult to find a tradesman during that period. And then, of course, the global crisis hit, and we had to weather that. That was a very difficult period, because it wasn't just the global crisis which affected everyone else. It was also the issue of the crash of Stanford. The largest private sector employer crashed. We had also British American that went under at this particular time. So it was a period when we had to really face some of the serious headwinds in our second term. Of course, you remember that after 2009, the Labour Party, they went to court, and they, for the first 2 years of our 2009 term, we were completely tied up in court. It was a period of great uncertainty. And this, coupled with the global crisis, made it a very, very difficult period. But we came through. Yes. We came through, and in the end, you know, we were able to see Antigua successfully into blue skies. And as it turns out, you know, in the democratic system, we lost government in 2014. But we were able to give to the Labour Party a country that was properly run, and they had a basis on which they could take off.
Yes. What I'm hearing from you is a lot of the things, or a lot of the benefits we enjoy today, came about as a result of a UPP administration.
Undoubtedly.
I hear you talk about the Prime Minister's scholarship and the number of other scholarships that went along with that. I hear you talk of social programs. I hear you talk of information technology. These are all things that we are still benefiting from, and they all came out of a UPP administration.
Oh, yes. I mean, I can even mention things like the Construct Antigua and Barbuda initiative, which is still going, which has stimulated construction activity. Lots of young persons, especially, have benefited from this program, the Construct Antigua and Barbuda initiative. And overall, we saw economic growth in 2006. That was unprecedented. We had 12% economic growth in 2006, largely driven by construction in the hotel sector.
So I remember coming to mind is the tagline, right track, right direction.
Oh, yes, right track, right direction. Oh, yeah.
That comes to mind.
Yes, yes.
So, in other words, what you're saying, UPP has a track record of performance in government.
We have a track record of performance in government, and many people, you know, sometimes miss the point that we started to vote in Antigua, you know, in terms of the population as a whole, in 1951. In other words, you call that universal adult suffrage. And from 1951 to the present, it's been about 70 years, 71 years. And during that period, the Labour Party has been in office for approximately 55. And it is only for the period when the PLM was in for 5 years and when the UPP was in for 10 years that any party other than the Labour Party has been in power. And therefore, when you see what we were able to do in that short period of time compared to what they failed to do over a very long period, I mean, we had to tackle just about every single problem, the debt problem, the water problem, the problem of late payment of salaries, a lot of problems we had to face and to overcome.
Yes, yes. I want for us later on in the program to talk about the forward thrust of a UPP party going in preparing for government, some of the plans, some of the policies, because what you have done just now is to say what we have accomplished, but I can only imagine that there is so much more to come. We have been talking, as you said it in the introduction as well, a number of issues have been plaguing us today. You spoke just now about water management. People tend to think that has become a political issue, but I think it is not well, politics is what is life. Politics is living, how we live. But I think it has become such of a national issue, the whole issue of water, that it affects everyone. Let us talk about that.
Yeah, the water question is a national issue, and some have tried to make it seem as though, oh, both parties.
Yes.
And I think we have to clarify that. Yes, water has been a problem for Antigua for a very long time because Antigua suffers from periodic drought. So we know that. However, the issue now is not about drought. There was a time when we got most of our water from what you would call surface water. The dams, the ponds, etc. That's where we got most of our water from. And then we got some from underground. Desalination came sometime after, and it provided a portion of the water that we received. However, today, 90% of the water that we consume comes from underground water, comes from the sea.
Okay.
Comes from the sea. And the sea is there. The sea doesn't suffer from drought. And the real problem is that we have failed to manage this resource in a way that can bring the needed benefit to our people. I can tell you, for example, we heard the big talk and hullabaloo about the Semcorp plant. When the Semcorp plant was taken over by APOA, by this government, they were producing 4.5 million gallons of water every day. 4.5 million. And during our period, it was the same time, it was the same thing. They were producing 4.5 million. Today, they're down to 2.1 million. And the reason why they're down to 2.1 million is because they have failed to manage and maintain the desalination plant or the reverse osmosis plant to provide water for our people. And so our people have been suffering because there has been no vision, there has been terrible management, and we have a country that's run by a man called Gaston Brown, who instead of looking about the issues that affect people, he's on his radio station cursing people. He's on Facebook answering everybody who has anything to say that he doesn't like. I mean, the man is an absolute disgrace. And I'm saying, water is such a critical problem. And I'm yet to hear him say something sensible about water. But in addition to what I'm saying with regard to the reverse osmosis plant that was taken over at Crabs from Semcorp, that they have run it down. You know, you have an administration where the workers, they will tell you, they know their job, they know what to do. I've had a chance to speak to workers in the water sector at all levels, and it is clear. I mean, I was speaking about it at a meeting we had in Freetown.
Yes.
And shortly after that, they called in the water business manager. And everything that he said agreed with everything that I had said, that they were seriously underproducing. Why were they underproducing? They were underproducing because the membranes, that's the part that you have in the reverse osmosis plant that's used to separate the salt water from the fresh water. And they had these things there, they weren't replacing them, they weren't providing the resources. And the people who we have to run those systems, as I'm telling you, I have great respect for them because they have been forced to work under very difficult circumstances and conditions.
So when we hear the government talk, and just this evening I heard a news report where a new reverse osmosis plant was commissioned and is now supplying water, I think it's to the southern side of the island. You're saying then, or your argument is, that it's not an increase in reverse osmosis plants that we should be looking at, but rather manage those that we have already.
Manage those that we have, and if we want to increase the capacity of those that we have, you can add additional units. And with those units, you can create and produce more water. But they're so happy to spend money that the country obviously does not have. And it makes you wonder, why would they want to go and spend $40 million on a plant in Bethesda to produce 3 million gallons of water when they have a plant that should have been producing 4 that's only producing 2? Now, to me, the obvious thing to do would be to increase what you're producing from the plant that you now have. But that means that you have to get the parts, and you have to change the membranes, and you have to maintain the thing properly. And the same thing could be said for the plant over at near the airport.
Yes.
Barnacle Point,
yes.
that area. There's a plant there that's seriously underproducing. The Pigeon Point plant is underproducing. All of these things ought to have been producing at a level that would have provided us with a satisfactory level of water. But what is even worse is that we began to shift more towards a comprehensive system of water storage. And so during our period, we were able to get assistance from the Venezuelans. And they assisted us in building several water catchment tanks.
Yes.
And so you go to Patterson's, that's just behind Liberta. And what you'll find there is a tank with a capacity of 400,000 gallons, and it hasn't been connected to the system. You find one in Buckley's with another 400,000 capacity, hasn't been connected to the system. They have one in Collins, hasn't been connected to the system.
And these were all left.
These were left by the UPP administration. So you can say for the last 8 years, they have just been twiddling their thumbs and failing to address this problem which is affecting people. Now, had they connected, and they will tell you that what is needed, and I've listened to all the different specialists in this area speak, you would have to get a pump that you place in Liberta, and you'd have to pump the water up to the tank in Patterson's through the transmission lines. And then you have the distribution lines that's coming from the tank, and you would distribute this to the people mainly in the Liberta area. People could be getting water. I've been told by people within the system that they could pump the water up in the night and gravity feed it down in the day. The same thing in Buckley's, the same thing in Collins. And we could be getting water had they connected those tanks. But it comes down to the fact that they really don't care.
Yeah.
They're not about the business of prioritizing these issues. It's all about talk. It's all about seeing what they can get for themselves. And this decision to purchase these new reverse osmosis plants, we're going to have to seriously look at those, investigate what is really going on. Why aren't they putting their emphasis on maintaining what we have, expanding, if necessary, what we have, rather than burying all this money in this new system? And what was very troubling was when I heard one of the officials state, I'm not saying it's his fault, because he obviously is just doing his job, but these new reverse osmosis plants, they're not going to be funded by any grant funding or any assistance or anything of the sort. He said they're going to be funded by APUA operations.
Wow.
APUA operations means that your bill is, like your water bill is going to have to go up. It's going to be a strain on APUA. And so for that reason, we have an administration that really needs to go, because they have completely failed the people in terms of this water question. And you know, when I hear people say, well, you know, Antigua suffers from drought. Yes, we suffer from drought, but let us keep on emphasizing the point. This is no longer a drought issue. 90% of our water comes from the sea.
Okay, and on that note, we have gotten the signal. We have to take our first break. And we just want to invite our listeners and our viewers, those who are listening, call a friend. Tell them the Captain's Corner is on. For those of you who are on our social media platforms, share the live. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back with more on Captain's Corner.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? We'll move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for The Right Rhythm. The Right Rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's The Right Rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
We have made it abundantly clear that no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie?
The song says better days are coming, and I think we all believe that, and we say welcome back to the Captain's Corner. We're here with the Captain, Harold Lovell, and you wanted to continue to make the point on water in particular as it relates to agriculture.
Yes, because we have to be able to recognize that water is perhaps the most precious natural resource that we have, especially within the Antiguan context.
Yeah.
Because of our particular circumstances, water is something that we have to treat very seriously. I once worked in the underground water department at APUA, and so I have an idea, because the thing that I studied at university, my first degree, was geography and geology with a major in hydrogeology, and that's all about underground water. And so I worked in that department, went out on the truck. And so I know where you have to go in order to find the water. And the thing is, this was something that used to be done, and farmers would be able to get water from underground water sources, and they didn't have to pay. This was a service that was provided. I was speaking last week to a farmer, and he was telling me that, he's suffering from shortage of water, obviously, like so many other farmers. And so he wanted to have access to underground water. And it's going to cost him $16,000 just to do the exploration. There's no guarantee that he's going to have the water. Before, that was something that was done by the government to provide water for people, so that you didn't have to go and pay to have the water wells dug just for the exploration. He's saying $16,000 just for the exploration before he can even get a drop in his pipe. And that's the type of thing that we see happening. Now, a UPP administration, certainly we will have a well-organized underground water department, and we will provide the necessary resources so that water will become available, and this will not be a burden on the backs of the farming community in Antigua. It never used to be so. And this is something that we will definitely change and make sure that in so far as water is concerned, underground water, that we will develop a proper underground water department, bring it back to what it used to be some time ago, and then improve it. Yes. So that we can know what we're doing, manage the underground water resource, so that we don't have issues like what we had in the past before we had the technology, where sometimes you had salt water coming into the water source and providing brackish water when you didn't want brackish water. So we will make certain that we address this issue, and our farmers can look forward to underground water being supplied in addition to the other sources so that we can bring cheaper water to the farmers, and water will be more accessible. And that's a promise that we make as far as water is concerned.
Okay, I can feel your passion for this underground water. You know, as you said, it was your area of study, it was part of your early work life. So I can feel it and I see it. So our farmers can look forward to relief.
Definitely, definitely, on a properly structured system. Because we must find a way to get water to our farmers in a way that is affordable and in a way that's easily accessible.
I want to jump ahead to another burning issue, and one that has occupied the attention of the general public, and that's the whole issue of fuel and the increase, some might say exorbitant increase in fuel prices. You've spoken at length at it, but it bears repeating. Let's talk about UPP administration when you had to manage that whole situation when we had the crisis back then, compared to what is happening now, and put it into some perspective that people will understand why we are speaking the way we are doing so now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I think it's important to understand the price buildup, what's called the price buildup with your gasoline and diesel at the pump. The price buildup is a term that is used to refer to all the different factors that go into the final cost at the pump. Now, there are two things that vary. One, the product price varies. You have no control over the price that you will buy the product for. And the other thing that varies is the tax that is paid on a gallon of gasoline and diesel. So when the price comes in at whatever it comes in to West Indies Oil, they then will have to pass it on to the wholesalers, to the retailers, to the people in the trucks who carry it, and all the other persons and entities that are involved in getting the product from West Indies Oil to the pump. Now, those are fixed. For example, you'll find that the retailers, they get, I think it's $1.08. That's fixed. No matter where the price goes, they have $1.08. You find that the truckers, I think they get 10 cents on every gallon. Others would get like 40 cents. All of those are fixed. Now, when that gets to the pump before the tax, the government then has to decide how much tax they're going to put on it. But if you have a high price and you still keep your tax rate at $4 or even $2 in some cases, you're going to pass on that to the consumer. And so the consumer, the motorist, the person who's pulling up with their car, they're going to be paying the product price, all the other in-betweens that I referred to that the different people will get, and then they're going to pay the tax. Now, during our time, especially leading up to 2011, 12, 13, that was a period when the price of oil on the world market was very, very high, similar to what it is now.
Yes.
So when people say there was no crisis then, they don't know what they're talking about. For that period, and you can go back because the records are there, and you will see that consistently the price of oil on the world market was hovering around $100, going up to $150, and hitting a peak, I think, of $152, thereabouts. Now, if we were to pass on that price to the consumer, we would have been paying $18 and $19. But at no time did the price ever touch $15. Never. In fact, I can say that in 2011, the price at the pump was $14.99. And some people say, well, that's high. Well, of course, it was relatively high. But the price at the time on the world market was in excess of $140. So what we had to do was cushion the motorist, cushion the consumer, and take little or nothing. And there were periods when we took nothing in tax, just so that the driver of the motor car would not feel the hit of the high price on the world market. When the prices were low, the price at the pump was equally low. I remember prices had reached $8.90, $9.50. I remember even in 2009, the price was $9.95. And that's because the price had come down on the world market, the price of oil. And therefore, in terms of our tax intake, we kept it at a reasonable level, taking sometimes $2, $2.50, maximum of $3. And so you've never paid more than $9.95 for a gallon of gas. Then when the price went up, we had to increase it. But even though we increased it, it never hit $15. And we were taking very little in terms of the tax. Now, we brought in, for example, in 2011, 2012, we were bringing in like $21 million in consumption tax. That's the tax that is applied on gasoline and diesel. And in another case, we brought in 36 million, but always under 40 million. Comes the Labour Party into office, and they brought in 2016, $80 million in tax. And that's because the price on the world market was very low. The price of oil was very low. Sometimes it reached $30, $20, etc. But the price remained at $12.50 at the pump. So they were now pulling in like $8 on each gallon, which allowed this government to pull in over $80 million.
So $8 in comparison to a $2.50
right.
that the UPP was
That's
getting.
right.
So when we are told that there'll be no new taxes, these are ways where hidden taxes are created.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Right.
So that was almost, you could say, a new tax.
Yes.
But it, instead of being at the rate like $2, if we kept it at $2.50, instead of having the pump price at $12.50, the pump price could have come down, as we said in 2018, to $10 easily. And that's one of the promises that we made, that we would have reduced the price to $10 on gas at the pump, because we could have done that and still get $2.50 to $3 in a tax. They decided they're going to take $8 on the gasoline, and so they literally they not only double it. In some cases, it was 3 times what we were getting. But you see, people don't see that.
Yes.
Because when you go to the pump, you don't know how much the gas station man is getting. You don't know what the price that they had to pay was when they acquired the product. You don't know how much the truck man is getting. All you know is this is what you're paying. And you don't know how much your tax is either, because it's hidden. And this is why it's so important for us to understand that. And that is why we say that this increase to $15.70, an increase of $3.20, is unconscionable. It's wicked. It is difficult to imagine how an administration, having received a windfall in taxes over the period, especially 2015 to 2021, when prices have been low, it is difficult to see how the savings that they should have achieved as a result of that they did not pass on any of that benefit to the people. And so what you had is a situation now where during the period when the price was low, the government got a lot of tax, but they didn't pass on any benefit to the people. And within a week of the announcement that prices would be increased, that prices were going up on the world market as a result of the situation in Ukraine, within a week, bam, they put on $3.20. They didn't even say, let's put on $1. Let's put on 50 cents, and gradually allow people to adjust. In one go, $3.20, taking it up to $15.70, which is the highest in my recollection ever in the history of Antigua and Barbuda. And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in because you hear the critics, and the critics will say, oh, what is it that the people of Antigua expect? there is a war that's happening between Russia and the Ukraine. Oil prices will go up. What do we expect? But the argument that you're making is that we have been carrying the burden all along.
Right.
We have been carrying without a war.
That's right.
And in the shortest space of time, we hear, okay, oil prices are going up. The storage that we have here, what we have in place here, we say, okay, let us increase, and not just increase by this whopping amount.
That's right.
Okay.
And I'm saying also that I consider it to be reckless. I consider it to be completely without merit. The argument that we have no storage for the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
Yeah.
You know, they were blowing trumpets and beating drums and blowing horns and making a lot of noise about what happened at West Indies Oil. And I have to say that what they executed at West Indies Oil was part of the plan that was already there. I mean, everybody knows that we had, at the time, Ambassador Joan Underwood. She was working with the Venezuelans. John Masai at the time was also very much involved in that particular project of bringing West Indies Oil under the ownership of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Well, we lost government in 2014, and they continued that project, and we have no difficulty at all with that. But I was shocked to hear that all the money that was spent on those tanks, that we don't even have 2 months supply for ourselves. I would have thought that we would have been using the opportunity to, on the world market, to buy fuel at favorable prices when we can, and so that we can, as they say, hedge our prices, whereby when the price goes up, at least we would have had some that we could use, having purchased it at a cheaper price. I mean, what's the point of having a facility like that with all those beautiful tanks, and the first sign of an increase, you have to pass it on to the people? So there is no storage for the people. That's basically what they're telling us, that there's no storage for the people. That we cannot even say that for 2 months we're good for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And there are a number of things that we're going to have to look into as far as this whole issue is concerned. Because I'm shocked, I'm disappointed, and I'm saying that under a UPP administration, we would have ensured that there was sufficient in store that the people of this country could have benefited from what we see with those storage tanks. We would have been able to get some benefit from those storage tanks that we have there, and not be hostage to persons who own the fuel in those tanks, and we get absolutely nothing. We're getting apparently 300,000 gallons out of a total storage capacity of 1.7 million gallons. And that is what comes to us, and it just comes and goes, and you replenish in very short period. But in terms of having a facility with a part of the storage that we own is set aside for Antigua and Barbuda, so that we're protected for at least 2 months, and that we wouldn't have to face that huge increase in such a short period. I'm saying that, in my view, is something that I lay at the foot of Gaston Brown and his inability to see what is necessary in order to protect the interests of the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
We're due a break, but I just want to quickly ask, don't you find it suspect that the Prime Minister now says that for the next shipment, there is a likelihood that the price will fall?
Well, he has felt the rage of the people, the outrage of the people, and so he's trying to pedal back. And I have to say that we've jumped on this, we have pointed out, and we have shown the people where the price buildup is, and the fact that they raked in huge amounts of taxes, and we didn't get any benefit from that. And I have to say that this was a period before COVID, because I don't want anybody to be blaming COVID.
Yes.
In 2016 was when I think they received the highest amount of consumption tax on gasoline and diesel. And that was before COVID. And in addition, that was when the Citizenship by Investment program was at its peak. And so we would have been pulling in something like $200 million from the CIP on an annual basis. in addition to the highest gasoline taxes ever. And still, now that we have faced a crisis, there is absolutely nothing. The cupboard is bare. There's been no saving. It is outrageous. It shows poor governance, poor strategy, poor thinking, poor management. That's what we get from this failed experiment called the government of Antigua and Barbuda, led by Gaston Brown, who is the failed experiment.
And on that note, we're going to take a break. Again, we invite you to call up your friends, call up your family, share the live, share, and let them hear the message from the political leader of the United Progressive Party. We will be right back with more on the Captain's Corner.
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, I have skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly one near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
First, he gassed us. Then, he lied to us.
We have made it abundantly clear that no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
Can we really trust him not to implement mandates for children aged 5 to 11? Vote them out!
Are you ready? Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? We'll move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for The Right Rhythm. The Right Rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's The Right Rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
To the Captain's Corner, and we'd like to acknowledge all those on Facebook who are having your discussion there. I just want to pick out one question that popped out at me on the Facebook feed, and it says, what will the UPP government do about the abundance of food which will produce in the increase when there's an increase in water supply? And I guess this is in relation to when you were talking about the underground water and agriculture.
With the abundance of produce.
With the abundance of produce.
Well, one area was with the school meals program and with CMC. It's all about how we manage the produce. We have said that with the Central Marketing Corporation, which was created under the Progressive Labor Movement government in 1973, and which today has been literally run down. I heard the Minister of Agriculture the other day, Honorable Samantha Marshall, saying that they're now going to put CMC to do what it was intended to do. After 8 years, they're now saying they're going to put CMC, but we have said, and we mean it because that's what we did when we were in office, We were developing it, we're building it, and we're going to continue to do that. Take it to another level under UPP administration. That all the farmers need to do is produce. That's all you need to do. You produce and we buy. We produce, you produce, we buy, we grade it, we sell it, we market it. That's your job, to produce.
Yes.
We pay you and we do the rest. We develop agro-industrial production so that we can begin to have byproducts from the different things that we do. Again, just Sunday speaking to a farmer who is talking about, egg production, that we are now self-sufficient in egg production, and he's looking to produce byproducts from the eggs that are produced from the surplus. But the storage, the facilities to do that, no help at all from this administration. In fact, what he's saying is that today, when you take ideas to the cabinet, before you know what's happening, cabinet ministers take the very idea that you put to them and they're doing it themselves. So they're setting themselves up in competition with the farmers. And I want to say that this idea of government and government ministers competing with business people in the private sector is totally wrong. And that's something we're going to put an end to. If you're into business, go into business. But if you're into service, that's when you come into government. And any new administration that I lead, it will be about service. We'll have business people. But business people, they will have to make sure that somebody else is handling that, and their efforts must be directed towards service to the people of Antigua and Barbuda. That's not what we're seeing today. What we're seeing today is every minister is trying to see how we can get into a little hustle, compete with the very people that they're paid to serve.
But what this question brings to mind for me, I remember very well the whole idea of nutrition for learning
Absolutely.
under a UPP administration.
The school meals program.
School meals program was created. And we have heard the stories, we've seen firsthand what the school meals program has been reduced to. I remember you in particular used to talk about linkages. How do we link the various sectors? And the school meals program was one of those programs that our agriculture, our farmers, or you name it, the meat farmers, meat producers, crop farmers, everybody benefited
Absolutely.
from. Let's talk a little
I
bit
want to
about
talk
that.
about that because that too is another major problem. That with agricultural production, one of the areas that we had created a ready market was with the school meals program. We said nutrition for learning. So we made sure that we made vegetable production something that the farmers could rely on a market in order to produce for the school meals program. We look at what's coming out today. It's terrible. And it is again another example of the failure of this administration. In fact, today, the school meals program is in such a mess, and I know what I'm talking about, that merchants in town don't want to see anything called school meals program. You can't go to anybody today and say you're coming on behalf of school meals. They won't take any credit. They won't give you any credit. Credit is dead in the private sector as far as school meals is concerned. In fact, I can tell you, were it not for what's say the benevolence, the goodwill of a merchant in town who's literally carrying the school meals program, literally carrying the school meals program. He's the that particular enterprise. They're the ones who have to buy everything for school meals because school meals has been running to the ground. And so they're giving the children food which we said was not what was intended. We had intended so that children would get proper, nutritious food. And at that age, you wean them into vegetables and things like that so that children can learn. And I just want to say that that is another area that we can definitely say will be improved under UPP administration. That the whole question of agricultural production, marketing for agricultural production, using the school meals program as one ready market, we will have to get the business of this country going in such a way that farmers know they will be paid, that the merchants in town who are selling the rice or whatever they're selling, they will be paid. And this business of government competing with the private sector, it has to stop. Every area that you look into, government is trying to compete with the private sector, and they cannot provide the type of service that is required, and it's not an even or level playing field. You have governments producing blocks aggregates, doing all sorts of things. You have governments now going into areas that farmers ought to be going into. And then you have public works now offering themselves up with the advantage that they have. They're competing again with the private sector. That's not good for the economy, and we are saying that those are areas that we will address, and we will build a vibrant private sector driven by the local business community so that we in Antigua and Barbuda can all have that opportunity to thrive and grow as far as entrepreneurship is concerned.
Quite a number of people, excuse me, are actually on the corner talking to the captain. And one question that was posed, will UPP audit the current administration's finances and confiscate what was obtained as a direct result of their public office tenure?
We will follow the law. We will do the thing that the people of this country expect us to do. We will do our duty. Of course, we will audit. Of course, we will investigate where investigations are necessary, and we will follow the law. And we will run a government that is based on service to the people and providing benefits to the people in various areas. For example, in housing. We haven't touched on that.
Yes.
But housing is an area that we are very passionate about because we put on the table a few years ago the whole question of rent to own. It's a beautiful idea. We said we would start at $900 a month. And you take as long as is required. We work with you in order that you can pay off for that property, that place that you will own. You will rent it, and eventually you will own it. It's almost like a sort of hire purchase arrangement. You own it eventually. So it's not a case where you're just paying rent over and over and over again. And what they have now is not for poor people. They are building homes that a lot of people come to me and say they are frustrated because they don't qualify for one of these homes. You have to earn an income whereby the mortgage payment alone is crippling. We need to have a system that is in the interest of poor people so that we can start at $900 a month. And if it takes you 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long it will take so that you can have enough income in your pocket, disposable income in your pocket after you've paid your rent and to eventually own the place where you live. So that you can live a happier life, your children can live a happier life. We take away a lot of this stress from people's lives where people just can't see their way. I know people are doing 2 jobs and they still can't see their way. They can't make it with the rent, plus the light, the water, and these type of things. These are the things that we're going to address. Make sure that we make life easier and better for the people of this country. So I'm telling everybody, look forward to the rent to own under the UPP. And we start it at a reasonable rate so that you can see your way. And we go up, and depending on what you choose, then you can enjoy whatever works for your budget.
Okay. Putting people first.
Putting people first. That's what it's all about. Putting people first, including the most recent issue with the fire station.
I was going just there. Go
yes.
ahead. Yes.
I mean, you've heard me. I talk about this over and over again because I just can't imagine what we're really experiencing in Antigua today. That I noticed they've moved the fire truck from All Saints because we called them out. And we're talking about driving on All Saints Road, on Factory Road, and looking left when you're going up, and not a single fire truck was in there. I mean, during our time, not only did we have the fire tenders in the original fire station, but in the annex, you had fire tenders in there. And I have spoken to the people who are in charge, senior people at different levels, and I've spoken to persons also at the lower level. And they all say that it's the worst it has ever been. It is the worst it has ever been. Never before has it been this bad in Antigua. And they're placing the people of this country at risk. Suppose the worst should happen and you have 2 fires at the same time. What are they going to tell people? What are they going to tell people? They're going to have to run and hide. They will have to run and hide. Because never before in the history of this country have we had a situation where you need 3 fire trucks minimum in St. John's. That's what the experts say, who run our fire service. We need at least 3 in St. John's. We need at least 2 in All Saints. We need at least 2 in Johnson's Point. That's 4 and 3, 7. We need at least 7. And we barely have 1. This government, they should just all resign in one go, because never before have we ever had it so bad. We've never had it so bad. We're a government that has collected more money than any other administration from CIP, from the increased taxes in gasoline and diesel, from increased revenue that has been brought in, that even in the heart of the COVID pandemic, they were picking up in taxes, recurrent revenue, $750 million. That's what they collected in 2021 or 2020. 2020. $750 million in the heart of the crisis that they were complaining about. In 2013, the last full year that we had, $602 million is what we picked up. 602, and they were criticizing us, saying we didn't do this, we didn't do that. With $602 million, we were making ends meet.
Yes.
And they were picking up, in the heart of the pandemic, $750 million. And now this year, they have a budget. They're looking to pick up $1 billion. That's what they're looking to pick up, $1 billion in taxes. $1 billion. 1,000 million, the most ever in this island's history. And they still can't get it right. We still can't get school meals. Nobody wants to take their checks. They can't pay anybody. We can't get water. We don't have any fire trucks. But all of them doing well. All of them are doing well. You know, everybody, and they've lost touch with reality.
Of course.
They have lost touch with reality. As far as they're concerned, Antigua is doing so well because they're doing well. But I can tell you, I hear it, I feel it, I see it. Just today, there was a young lady crying in my office, crying because of how tough things are in this country.
Now, Brother Lovell, the people of Antigua and Barbuda, they're looking to the United Progressive Party for redemption. I want you at this time to assure the people that the next UPP administration, you have done it before and you will do it again. What can we look forward to a new UPP administration led by Harold Lovell?
We can say with all confidence that a UPP administration led by Harold Lovell, we will see improvement in housing conditions, affordable housing for our people. We will see improvement in water. We will make sure that those reverse osmosis plants, that they're working to their capacity, that the cisterns or the storage tanks that we left there, they will all be fully connected so that we can bring water to our people. You will see in the agricultural sector, we will have water for our farmers, and we will have a ready market for our farmers so that our farmers know that their job is to produce. We buy what they produce and we take it from there. Our young people can look forward to our exciting programs. For example, our Young Entrepreneurs Setup, where we don't just say we have an entrepreneurial development fund. There's so many people who have gone to this entrepreneurial development fund and they went there hoping for the best and they've come back with nothing but sadness on their faces. And that's because the entrepreneurial development fund, it is so difficult to get any assistance from this fund. We are saying, we know it's not something that we're going to just willy-nilly be just throwing money away at people, but what we have to do is help our people to succeed. And what that means is that we will assist our people in terms of access to money. Access to money is one of the most difficult things right now for our young entrepreneurs. And therefore, we will make sure that we provide the necessary collateral, what we call the credit guarantee scheme or the loan guarantee scheme, so that when you go to the bank and you have a great idea, But the bank says, yeah, we're willing to lend you the money, but you have to come up with the collateral. You have to put the backative. Here is where government comes in. We will help with the backative, with the collateral. We will make sure that once you have a good program, a good project, something that you can get loan funding for, we will provide the support, the security that you need. But we know that there are some things which the banks may be reluctant to fund, and that's where we come in. And that's where we will make sure that we provide the necessary assistance through whether it be equity in the business, where we take some of the equity, carry some of the burden for you. And then in the end, when you're on your 2 feet, we give you everything back and we take our share and we're out. We've helped to make you into a successful business person. But then there's marketing.
Yes.
And you see, if you undercapitalize a business, in other words, you don't give them enough money to succeed, you're setting them up for failure. And so we have to make sure that you have your marketing in place. We'll help with the marketing. We'll help with the accounting. Somebody came to me the other day. They went to the Entrepreneurial Development Fund, but the people asked them for a business plan. Of course you must have a business plan, but that's where government comes in. What are we paying taxes for? We have a lot of young people, they've studied accounting, they've studied finance. We would create a pool whereby these persons, they would do the feasibility studies, they would do the cash flow projections, they do all those things which are necessary for you to have a successful business. But when you are down, you're a young person, you're looking financing for your business to see how you can make it, and they're telling you, you have to go and pay an accountant in order to do your business plan, and the accountant is going to charge you between $800 and $1,000. Yeah. So already at the first hurdle, you already knock over the first hurdle, and you're already in problem. Yeah. So there's marketing, there's access to finance, but also back office arrangements. Yeah. Because you see, I know good plumbers. They're good plumbers, but they have not yet been able to establish a good plumbing business. Yes. I know good horticulturalists. They're good at the flowers and getting things going, but they have not been able to set up a successful horticultural business. And a lot of it has to do with the upfront costs. And so what we would do through our incubator programs and the other programs that we have to help young people is that we would say, look, you go and do the work. We'll have somebody who will do your billing, who will follow up on the telephone calls, make sure that Miss James down the road, who owe you for the work you did on her sink or her outside pipe or whatever you did, you don't have time to be running her down, you know, for your little $300, whatever it is. We as a government will provide those services. And at the same time, we'll be providing work for our young qualified people who have come back and who've studied these things. It's an area where they will be able to gain great experience, and at the same time, you, this young small business person with a great idea, trying to move ahead, UPP to the rescue. And that's why we say we're the right choice. We're the right choice for the young business people who will benefit from our YES program, Young Entrepreneurs Setup, benefit from our housing, rent to own, starting at $900. Let's get the water going, because we will connect the storage tanks. We will maintain the reverse osmosis plants. And we will make sure that the private sector will be a thriving, vibrant private sector. Because we're there to give assistance, not to compete with the private sector, to try and run you out of business. What we are there to do is to make sure that you can succeed. And there's one last thing, if you would permit me. Sure. I know time is running out. One last thing. And
there's a question on Facebook I want to pose as well.
Okay, let me just finish this last point. Sure. And it has to do with cost of living. Yeah. Right? And I am very, very strong on this point. A government that is elected by the people cannot just sit by and say prices are going up and boo-hoo, boo-hoo, we can't do anything about it. Of course government can do something about it. And when we put on the table what we would do, they try to criticize us. And in trying to criticize us, expose their ignorance. When we said that we would reduce the duty on certain essential food items and food-related items, I heard the Prime Minister, who ought to know, but who knows not that he knows not. Imagine this man is saying that all foodstuffs are already zero rated. And the things that we're talking, The man is talking about ABST. I'm not talking about ABST. I know about ABST. I was the person who created the basket of exempt items, zero-rated items, when I was Minister of Finance. I know about that. I'm talking about duty. Because at the port, you pay duty, you pay ABST, and you pay the RRC, the Revenue Recovery Charge. I'm talking about duty. Now, with duty, you look at raisins, which you use in your raisin using currants roll. It look like raisins. I mean, I don't know if it's currant, but anyway.
Currants,
raisins, okay, attracts 40%, a tariff of 40%. Yes. Why can't we reduce that to even 20%? We'll still get some, but because the prices have gone up so much that even if you reduce the amount that you're collecting in duty, you're still going to collect what you were collecting before, because what they're doing is really taxing the inflation. That the price has gone up. So say, for example, something comes in, it costs $100, and the duty on it is 40%. The government will get $40 on the $100 product. But if it now goes up to $200, the government is now going to be getting $80 instead of the $40. Now, instead of taking all the 80, cut it down. Yes. Take a little less so people can live. You look at meat kind, as they say in Antigua, meats in Antigua. A lot of the meat in Antigua is imported. But the duty that you're paying on it is so high that today, even though we would love to be self-sufficient saying beef, they haven't done anything to really stimulate beef production. I know a lot of people know of red meat, so I don't know if that's a factor. But the point is, beef is very difficult to get locally, even goat meat. But they haven't done anything to really ensure that the people who are rearing these animals get any assistance. All that you do, you pay a very high price, and when you go to the supermarket, it's so difficult. Breakfast cereals, that's another high-ticket item. And when the price goes up, the government gets more tax. Yeah. Take less. You look at things like cooking oil. You've heard me say, I said it on the platform. A 5-gallon bottle of cooking oil used to be $75. Now it's going at $216. And the government is getting a 40% duty on the higher price. So instead of taking the full 40%, which is giving you a lot more money, take 30. Yeah. Take 20. You will still get more than you were getting before, and the people will get some of the benefit. Again, listen. Today, somebody who has a small business doing cooked food, who are really down saying, it's so difficult because they cannot raise the prices, say, on their sandwiches or their subs and things like that. But when they go into the supermarket, things that used to cost $20 is now $40. Things that used to cost $10 is now $25. The cost of living has gone out of control, and a government must address this issue and do something to bring some relief to the people. And that's what we say. So when they talk about, oh, how are you going to make it happen? It's simple. Reduce the duty. We didn't say remove. Yes. Reduce the duty. You're going to still get as much as you were getting before, maybe even a little more, but the people will get some of that benefit. And that's all we're saying. On essential food items, we need to take a stock. Even cornmeal. The cornmeal tariff is something like 40%. Okay? Now, the reason why that was put in place was when we used to have the cornmeal factory, there was a high tariff to protect the locally produced cornmeal. Okay, now that we look back at it, we have to realize that we have to reduce that because it's fungi we make with the cornmeal. And the price of fungi now is going to be even higher because of the imported cornmeal, the imported prices. And all we're saying, reduce the duty on it. And when you reduce the duty on it, you police it. You make certain that the Prices and Consumer Affairs Division will ensure that the places that get the benefit of the reduced duty, that they will have to pass that on to the purchaser, to the buyer, to the consumer, and not do price gouging and keep it in their pocket. But that's how you run a proper government. And we intend to run a proper government. So I want to say, the issue of the cost of living is a critical issue that we will address.
There was a question on Facebook. I'll try and pull it back up. But the gist of it really was, what would a UPP government do in terms of solar energy, and there are persons who are putting into the grid, whether or not there'll be any reduction in costs in terms of their payment to APUA.
Right.
I miss it, but
the issue of alternative energy obviously is critical, and we have a number of plans as far as that is concerned to make certain that we can allow persons to produce solar energy by placing the panels on their roofs or in their yard or wherever they choose to place it, and that they will get the benefit as far as that is concerned. We feel that that is important, that we allow people at the household level to have that level of independence. And I think that is something that most people would agree with. We feel that the question, however, of the large-scale investment in solar, I still feel that this is something we have to look at very carefully. The upfront costs are very high. In many cases, you still need some sort of backup. The battery costs are very high. I mean, I'm looking at what has been done. The space that is required is also quite extensive, and the technology is still developing. I mean, today, the amount of energy that you can get is so far in excess of what previously, 20 and 30 years ago, you could get. So I think we have to look at it. We have to be very prudent. We have to be very wise, because at the end of the day, what you want is to make sure that our people can get cheaper electricity. And that will be the bottom line. And that will be the guiding factor, to make certain that our people can get cheaper electricity.
Okay. Someone is taking you up on the rent to own, and she wants to know, if you have a piece of land and need a home, will the same monthly payment, or will the monthly payment be the same as the ones that will be rent to own?
And that's a matter that we would work out as a matter of detail. At the end of the day, what we want to do is work with people. If we're going to work with you and help you on your own land, then obviously that is something that has to be taken into account. Our technical people, they will look at that, but the bottom line is we want to help people. And so whatever it takes, we want to make sure that we run an operation that is sustainable, because we're not about just doing things in a way that is irresponsible. We're saying we want to help people. We want to make sure that you can pay $900, because you look at what people would pay. Look in the city's constituency. If you go into one of the apartments there, it's $900. In a small single-room house, maybe 2 bedrooms, you're going to be paying maybe $1,000. It's crippling people. It's very difficult for a lot of people at this time. And we have to find a way to work with people. So I said to that person, bottom line is, we'll work with you. We'll work out the details, and we'll make sure that whatever we arrive at, you can live with it, we can live with it. But at the end of the day, together, we're going to make it better. We're the right choice.
Right choice indeed. And I'm being told that we've gone way over time.
Yes, yes.
We were talking about UPP, the right choice, why UPP, and what we can look forward to.
Yes.
With a new UPP administration in the 2 minutes that we have remaining.
I just want to say that we'll have an economy that's driven by technology. Technology is going to be a big deal for us. We did it before, and we're going to do it again. We're going to make sure that everybody who's involved in any form of technology, we're going to give them that extra boost in terms of software production, in terms of repairing computers, all of those things, everything to do with technology, we're going to be there. We're going to develop a sector within the economy, the aviation sector, that's going to take off. It's going to create new job opportunities for our people. We're going to do packaging and processing close to the port. The port, as you know, was developed as a UPP concept in 2014. We're the ones, through David Chowl, who was the ambassador at that time, who negotiated with the Chinese so that the port could be built. We knew that at the time our vision was to have a port that around that port we would transform it, and it would be jobs that we'd be creating for persons. Agriculture, we're going to put a lot of emphasis on agriculture so that we have food production, sustainable food production, and food security. We must do that, and we're going to make sure we do it. And we're going to continue to look after our people. For example, the People's Benefit Program, When we set it, the threshold was $800. Today, $800 is nothing. At that time, if you were making $800 a month, anything more, you wouldn't qualify. Today, we have to increase that because, simply speaking, people need to be able to live and they need to be able to get the sort of benefits that we say are absolutely necessary for us to live in a modern society.
And we cannot forget the business community.
And I want to say, with the business community, we're going to work with the business community. And as former finance minister, I have to say, you know, in that period of 2009 to 2012, I had to take some tough decisions. You know, I'm going to man up to that. I'm going to own up to that. You know, we're going through a crisis and we had to make some tough decisions. But all of those decisions were not made for personal benefit. They were made in order that we could sustain the country and keep the country going. And we did that. Going forward, I can assure everyone in the business community that we are going to make sure that we work with you, we consult with you, and we make sure that your businesses can do well in Antigua and Barbuda. And the government will be your facilitator. The government will not be your competitor.
Harold Lovell, our captain. We thank you so very much. It was a pleasure sitting and listening and feeling your passion for a new Antigua and Barbuda. And I want the people of Antigua and Barbuda to be comforted knowing that you are at the helm and you're ready to take Antigua and Barbuda forward. So we have come to the end of another Captain's Corner. Until we come your way again another Thursday night, I'm Sean Nicholas on behalf of the Captain Harold Lovell, wishing you a pleasant evening. Good night.
My father died when I was just 5 years old. My mother came from Willikees village. She had 5 young mouths to feed, and she toiled on her sewing machine to make ends meet. She was a strong woman who taught us right from wrong. And even though she struggled, the choices she made put us on the right path. I made the choice to work hard, play by the rules, and get an education. I had a number of opportunities, but I chose to return to Antigua and inspire the next generation. I taught at the Antigua Grammar School, and it's here that I saw firsthand how education transforms lives. I made the choice to get into politics because of the lack of resources that I saw in our schools. I saw how our teachers and families struggled whilst an elite few got ahead. When the people granted us the opportunity to serve in government, we had a lot of work to do. As Minister of Finance, I helped to clean up the rot of 30 years of one-party rule. We saw our country through the global financial crisis and the Stanford collapse. Through all of that, we introduced the school meals program, the school uniform program, and laptops for children. While we were not perfect, no one is perfect but Almighty God. We worked day in and day out to defend the nation and put people first. Today I see too many families struggling for a lack of jobs and the mental stress that comes with it. The cost of living is out of control. And for too many of us, water is still not readily available. And our needed pension checks are not coming on time. While the elite few did well, the ABLP denied you the right to choose what you put in your body. Whilst we believe in vaccines, we don't believe it's the responsibility of government to control your bodies. We will bring an end to all the mandates. This election is about choice, and we believe that we are the right choice because we give you the choice.
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, I have skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly won near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education, or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Beautiful people, are you ready to get off your feet and release that blue energy? We'll move to the front of the class and throw your hands up in the air for The Right Rhythm. The Right Rhythm, a weekly musical experience featuring Antigua and Barbuda's top DJs. 2 hours of musical entertainment every Friday night from 8 p.m. on UPP, YouTube TV, and streamed live on all media platforms, as well as Progressive 107.3 FM. It's The Right Rhythm, brought to you by the United Progressive Party. The right choice.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
The United Progressive Party. The right choice.